Hello, good morning. It's so lovely to be back with you. Thank you for getting up and taking a shower, coming in. I know that's a lot sometimes, isn't it? Whew. This Buddhist monk asked his students a question, and he said, if you're carrying a cup of coffee and someone bumps into you, why did you spill the coffee? And unanimously, every student looked at their teacher and they said, because of the person who bumped into me. And he went, really? He said, every single day the world is going to bump into you. And whatever it is that you are carrying in your cup is what is going to spill out into the ethers, into the atmosphere, into this earth plane, into this shared human experience. And so every morning, perhaps what you have the opportunity to do is decide, what are you going to put in your cup? Because if we're not conscious, if we're not mindful stewards of this immaculate infinitude of power that is connected to the all, if we're not mindful of that, if we're not conscious of that, then chances are when we do wake up, even if we didn't take a shower, we might put into that cup a lot of fear. We might put in a lot of atmospheric, we're all sponges. We might put into this sort of inflamed thinking, this anger, this rage. There's a myriad of things that you and I might put into our cup if we're not pausing and if we're not asking ourselves, what do I want to put into my cup today deliberately? And so I recently heard that story again, and it reminded me how often I have loved that. And how originally when I heard it, it did give me pause. It did give me pause, and it reminded me one of the beautiful things that this teaching offers us, and that is this role of responsibility and the freedom that comes with that. Think about that for a moment. The role of the responsibility of the lived experience that we are having in this earth plane, in this costume, in this spacesuit right now that I'm calling David. I get to choose. I get to choose even in the apparent absence of things that look void of choosing. Because as I know, the external world really does not have any power, any control over what happens within the realm of what we call consciousness. I am free. I am free in this moment. And so oftentimes when I think about that, now it's a practice that is so ingrained within me that the additional energy that I bring to it is not a sense of arduousness. It isn't a sense of, oh, this is what I got to do because this is what spiritual people do. It's how do I make this light? How do I make this playful? How do I understand that in this one singular spile that I'm calling David that looks like this, how do I want to be the hands and the feet and the heart and the motivation and the intentionality and the consciousness of the thing that I am choosing to put into my cup right in this very moment? And about 3 years ago, when we were all emerging, whack-a-mole, we're all popping up out of COVID to see where are we right now. And I remember in that moment, in my foundation that Reverend Skip talked about, Kaleidoscope Child Foundation, we were like, just like all the other nonprofits, just like this center, just all the other organizational things that are bringing good to the human collective, what can we do to sort of shake the sleep of ourselves in order that we might be able to approach this idea of, just like we're doing here, of our programming for the following year? What could we do? And the thing that I often put into my cup is, it's kind of like bite off more than you can chew, David. Because in biting off more than you can chew, you won't know if you can chew it unless you bite it off. And that means my version of expansion. My version of looking at what I have defined as a hard line in the sand, and how do I want to step over that? My version of looking at it is what is in the collective unconscious of my own upbringing that is still the voice of my parental figures, that is still the voice of my poor upbringing. How can I stretch myself beyond that in whatever trepidation and fear that I might have? And so I said, I know what I want to do. I want to go back and walk the Camino again. So my first Camino was the traditional route where you start at the base of the Pyrenees and you walk over into Spain, and it took me 34 days to walk across Spain to get to the destination of the Compostela, where the remains of the Apostle St. James are buried. And it's one of the greatest, most amazing pilgrimages that still exist on our planet today. And Santiago de Compostela, to be able to walk this pilgrimage, pilgrims have been doing it since the Middle Ages. And so I thought, I think I want to do the Portugal route. So it was 2022. My really good friend, who is the senior minister of Unity of New York City, got wind of me saying that, and he goes, I want to go. And I said, all right. And I said, here are the rules. And so we were prepping, and I said, don't kid yourself. You need to start walking now. It's January. You need to start walking now because we're going to go in July. And it was corresponding to some other things, but I thought this is my opportunity to use it as a fundraiser for Kaleidoscope Child Foundation. And I will use my phone, and I will video, and I will thank people, and I will take them on the journey with me. It'll be another form of our walk for education, but it'll be the Camino edition. And so off we went. And we started at the cathedral in Lisbon. And what one doesn't anticipate is weather. You don't know what it's going to be like. July, warm, Portugal, how bad could it be? Ooh, Lord, child, it was a heat wave coming on. And every single day it was breaking over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And so it meant like thinking on the feet, which meant you got to get up at 4 to get back on the trail at 5. To try to get to your next destination in the pilgrimage before the heat of the day. And there was a lot of soaking of handkerchiefs and things around the neck, and dare I say, cerviche bottles that were holding onto my head in the back of my neck to keep from heat exhaustion. But nonetheless, it was a rewarding experience. And I remembered, it's almost addictive. The moment that you've done a Camino, you can't wait to go back and do another one. And I remembered that camaraderie. I remembered that there's nothing like this on the planet, where all you have to do, if you're mindful, is to just walk. To just walk. And to see the landscape, and to see the people. And I began to fall in love with Portugal. And as I'm going, I noticed that they had 2 arrows. One kept saying, on the way to Santiago de Compostela, but another one kept saying Fatima, to Fatima. I was not born Catholic. I didn't know much about the story of Fatima, and my husband is Catholic, and so I'm like, hey, Cliff Notes, Fatima, what is it? And I started to realize that maybe this is something that I want to veer off. I want to add a couple of days to my pilgrimage because I feel drawn to this. And if you don't know Cliff Notes version, and I am not an expert, but Fatima is where the Mother Mary appeared in a vision to 3 children in Portugal, in this place called Fatima, in like 1907 or something like that. And it was this transmission of these beautiful messages, and it is now the place where they have built this massive cathedral on the site where Mother Mary appeared to these 3 children. And that particular Marian faith of Catholicism is global. And I thought, something is calling me to go see this. And so navigating the heat, I ended up, watching the arrows as I'm traversing across Portugal, and I get there. And the day before I arrived, something said, reach out to people in your social media and ask them if they want to give you a prayer request to take to Fatima. And so I did. And I was overcome by the responses of the prayer requests that came into me. I archived them on my phone and finally made it to Fatima. And it was quite overwhelming. It was just this majestic white spire of cathedrals and massive people, even in 100-degree heat. And these people who are devoted in that particular faith doing their penance on their knees as they're walking across there, and the people who are lighting the candles and the masses that are going on. And I made my way into not the main cathedral, but this one cathedral that was pure white, just absolutely white inside. There was no religious iconography anywhere. The only thing that it was in this magnificent chapel was a painting, massive. And it was of Mother Mary and those three children. But it was done in a style that I couldn't even name to you what that style was. It had this mixture of silvers and golds, and the way in which the light hit the painting made Mother Mary's face glow almost naturally. And I was just frozen. Now, granted, I stink. I'm in there, I got my backpack on, and I'm walking in there, and I go and I plop myself down in this pew right in direct alignment with this painting. And I take out my phone and I began to read the prayer request. And so I thought, let me do it this way. So I looked at the prayer request, I spoke it to the painting. And then I went down to the next one. And I kept repeating this, and it was quite a lengthy list. And my intention of this was, whatever it is that is appropriate, that is of the highest and best for me to be able to respond collectively to these people, I'm available. And as I completed the list and I kept my eyes gazed upon this painting, these were the opening words. There was quite a bit of holy dictation, but these were the beginning words. I had to look it up yesterday as I was thinking about this. And I was staring at, and these are the words that came. Bread feeds when broken open. Soil grows when broken open. You are not broken. You are the world's nourishment, continually being broken open by design. I think I should read that again. Bread feeds when broken open. Soil grows when broken open. You are not broken. You are the world's nourishment, continually being broken open by design. I put that into my cup. And I said, what does that mean for me? And one of the things that bloomed out of that cup was this idea of process. So I've been looking at the pilgrimage and the terrain in Portugal, and I know that around day 27, I'm going to meet my master. I'm going to come to a mountain, and I'm going to have to climb that sucker. And by now, maybe it's day 17. I don't really remember exactly. But my thoughts were day 28, the mountain. And already I'm dreading it because I got really great stamina. I can keep going, but I can be slow sometimes. And sometimes things like mountains are a little intimidating. And there was this obsession in my thought about, I just want that to be over. And then the day came. The day came where I'm standing at the base of this, and I'm ruminating in my mind again, And I thought, I'm cheating the heat. It's 6:30 in the morning, but already I'm breaking a sweat. And then all of a sudden, it's like, David, no matter how much you wish this was different, it is what it is. So you can either breathe and put one foot into the front of the other and honor the process, or you can remain in your mental suffering all the way up the climb. And that was intriguing to me because I thought, oh yeah? Well, I'm going to figure out something that is void of process. And so I started to climb, and I'm going, oh, no, that's got a process. Every day, you and I can wake up in the morning, and if something exciting is on your calendar in the evening, you wish that it was the evening already. But you know what? Nothing is going to change the process because the day will unfold as the day is lawfully designed to unfold. Ooh, I don't feel well. I just want this illness to be over. Well, you know what? The illness is going to run its course. There's wisdom there if we're willing to look at it that way, if we're willing to be in communication, whatever is trying to talk to us about this physical instrument. But if I'm wishing that it was over, then I am perpetuating a new form of suffering that I didn't even realize I was doing. And what I'm putting in my cup is what? Futurizing. I just want this to be over. If I'm going, I will start my life when all these cheering are out of my house. Instead of realizing that no matter where we are in the process of our parental journey, that the journey is what it is. But if I'm holding and waiting for some specific result before I allow myself to breathe, to exhale, to be in joy, then I am promoting this sort of suffering, and I am dictating the way in which now life is on hold until outer circumstances match the picture in my head. And oh my God, I thought, I got to figure something that's void of process. And I'm just, nope, shoot, that's got a process. I mean, I'm running the gamut of all human existence and life form. And I'm thinking, oh my God, nothing is void of process. And then all of a sudden, I am remembering the words of Ram Dass when he said, be here now. And I used to think, oh, what a pithy, wonderful title that is. And I was like, damn, that's it. You, me, be here now. Right now, I'm with you. Right now, I'm with you. Right now, you're with me. Maybe. Are you thinking about lunch? That's okay, too. But you start to see the power of the mind when it lapses into unconscious. I don't know, sometimes now when I put Be Here Now into my cup, when I put in the title, Bloom Where I Am Planted, I am here for a reason. In this moment, everything has meticulously designed for me to be right here, sitting in this car in front of a red light, whatever it is. And if I'm not fully present, then there's something rich that I am missing. And I don't know if this alarms you or not, but I think about the million times I've gotten into my car and I've turned the key and I can't remember how I got to where I was going because I was arguing with somebody from 20 years ago. Or I was checking my to-do list, or I was crafting my grocery list, or I was planning what I had to do next week. And all of a sudden, oh my God, David, you've been driving steel with other human beings, and you are completely unconscious. And Ram Dass going, be here now, David. And when I began to look at that, when I began to laugh at that, when I began to soberingly reflect upon my life and the way in which I was the prisoner of my own making because all I wanted was for something to be done, to be over. And I know that it sounds simplistic when we approach it intellectually, but I'm asking you not to approach it intellectually right now. I'm asking you to go into your heart. You know, there is a difference. There is a difference between being interested in something and being invested in something. And that goes with you and I with regards to the way in which you are the hands and feet of the infinite. And I will tell you, quite honestly, it took a long time for me to understand the difference between being interested and being invested. It took me a long time. And that's not a shaming thing. It's just an outlying way of looking at the way that we are sponges. I found this teaching through my beloved second mom, Louise Hay. I couldn't help but find it because I was in the van with her every day. I observed her every day. I went, I want some of that. Because I was interested in it. It felt good to me. It felt like a relief from my Assemblies of God, praise Jesus, hallelujah, upbringing in southern, southeast Texas. It was a liberation from me, from this message that I was born of sin, and here I'm being told I'm enough. It was great. It was lovely. I was interested. But as maturity happens and as time moves on, we start to learn that it isn't, and I say not enough, maybe that's not accurate. There's more than just being interested. When you flip just a little bit over to that side of this metaphoric fence that moves now and wants to take you beyond the familiarity, it wants you to say, you know what? Honor the entirety of your journey. We just made a documentary of the 20 years of Kaleidoscope Child Foundation, the origin story. It was a Herculean event. And I can't tell you how many times in 2024 where we had to fundraise that I kept saying, I wish this was over. I wish that this was funded. And by golly, if I didn't have to keep going to bloom where you're planted, David, that means have the conversation with the person that you're talking about this project. Be here fully. Listen. Every single step along the way. I grew so much in 2024 because I could not fathom how we would pay for this thing. And it was tricky because it was a crew. And it was international flights, and it was visas, and it was press permits, and it was all of this kind of stuff that had to be paid for in advance. And God bless American Express. And going, you know what? And I kid you not, it was, we had to make the flights. I had to get the crew first to Cambodia and then to India. And they're at my house in Atlanta, Georgia. And it's New Year's Eve, 2024. We're leaving my house in like 6 hours to get to the airport. And the phone rings. And this woman that I had been having these calls with, she was going to invest in the film. And there had been some holdups, and it just didn't come through in the time frame that we thought it was supposed to come through. It just wasn't happening. And I just thought, you know what? We're getting on a plane. We're getting on a plane. I'll figure it out while we're shooting the film. She called while they were all in my house. I put her on speakerphone, and she goes, I just wired the money. I love those kind of stories. Don't get me wrong. I love those kinds of stories, and I will tell you, everything that we put in our cup does not always have a story that matches that way. And that's okay. But the point is, as you and your spiritual community go on this month-long adventure together, there are two ways in which you can approach your cup. You can approach it individually, but you can also approach it collectively. I was doing that with my cup. It's like, this is my foundation. This documentary was from a grand idea of a succession plan. Long after I leave this planet, what will happen to our work? What will happen to our schools? What will happen to the little economies that we have built in these slums? What will happen to the teachers? What will happen? And it was like, it's not my business. But my business is this: do everything within my power while I'm breathing to set it up for the highest form of success that I can. Whether I'm there or not. Whether it lasts or not. And when we think about North Hollywood Church of Religious Science, when you think about it, and I want you to smile when you think about this, there are people that you have not even met yet who will come through these doors. They might wind up being one of your greatest inspirations. I love that that is not contingent upon your age, that is not contingent upon your history, your economic background, anything. It means that at any given moment, when we are blooming and nourishing where we are planted, whether it be in real time or whether it be in spiritual community, that there are a multiplicity of harvest that just keep going and going and going and going. We wrapped the film in February of 2025. I had to sit in a cave in India for about 2 days to try to process what had just happened. And I came back, and all my friends here in Hollywood, I lived in LA for 23 years, and all my friends here, they were going, well, what's the plan? And I go, well, it's going into editing. And they're telling me, the creative team, I don't have creative control of the project. I just got them there. They tell me that they're going to try to make the deadline for the Sundance Film Festival. And they go, when's that? And I told them it's like right now. And, and they went, no way. All those Hollywood types. No way. It's going to take much longer than that. Not only did they finish it, not only did the director go, okay, are you sitting down? I'm sending you a private link because you're going to need to watch this, because we did a private screening for all the investors in Atlanta, all the donors, all the people connected with Kaleidoscope. 200 people showed up in the theater, and I bawled like a baby. I I could not believe that something that magnificent and embarrassing, because, I'm like, oh God. I said, what happened to the budget for Industrial Light and Magic and all these bags under my head? And I just couldn't fathom. I couldn't fathom that of the 8 billion people in this world, that I would have the riches to receive the gift of what I just watched. And it was a standing ovation. And they submitted it to Sundance Film Festival last week. And no matter where it goes, all of next year, I'm like on call because it will go to film festivals all across the planet. And what I know is this, that this idea of what are you putting into your cup? Are you willing to bloom right where you are? Are you willing to honor your own personal process? Are you willing to understand that why you are here in this time, in this space continuum with all of the madness is not by accident? Do you get that you are here even just in this room this morning? Look at the right and the left. Look at these people. You may never be in the same collective ever again. Do you get the meticulousness of what is constantly happening for you? Please, what will you put into your cup? Because I can only begin to imagine the fruits of your intention, the fruits of the intention of this community. May all be well, and so it is.